All right, Jim Hart here from the Hart Law Firm, and here we're moving into video number 2, and this is we're going to be talking about filing your absolute divorce here in North Carolina. And so the initial paperwork, what are you going to need to take with you to the clerk's office before you file for divorce? There's basically 4 main documents you're going to take with you to the clerk's office. The first is going to be your complaint for absolute divorce. The second is going to be your civil summons. You're not going to sign that. You're actually going to bring 3 copies, and the clerk will sign all 3 copies of those for you. They're going to retain one for their file, and they're going to give the 2 originals back to you. You're going to have 3 copies of a domestic civil cover sheet, and then you're going to have 3 copies of a Service Member Civil Relief Act affidavit. All of these documents will be prepared automatically for you when you go through the absolute divorce interview that we provide on the site. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 3 copies of each of these documents to the clerk's office, and the clerk is basically going to open up a new court file, and they're exactly what they sound like. They're going to grab a new file. Exactly what they sound like. They're going to grab a new file from their little pile. They're going to assign a case number to your case. They're going to stamp every single document you give them with that new case number. They're going to file stamp each document showing the date and time that it was clocked into the court file. And what they're going to do is they're going to keep the originals. I usually call these the blue copies. I like to sign all my documents in blue ink. And then they're going to give you back the file stamped copies. And so that's the initial paperwork. So what do you do with those copies, those documents, once you receive them? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to keep 1 copy of all the documents for yourself. Then the second set of copies must be served. This is a legal term, must be served on your spouse in accordance with the rules of civil procedure. So you can't just give the copies, you can't just go to the courthouse. Like literally, if you went to the courthouse with your spouse and you filed everything together and then you turned around and handed a copy of the documents to him or her, that is not sufficient. If you go to the final divorce hearing and you tell him, well, he was there with me or she was there with me when we filed everything, and I handed them to him right there in front of the clerk, not going to work. The judge is going to say, well, I'm sorry, you need to serve him or her in accordance with the rules of civil procedure. And there's 2 primary ways that you can serve your spouse. The first is to send a copy of the documents through the U.S. Postal Service via certified mail, return receipt requested. And with return receipt requested, basically that's the green card that you're going to pick up at the post office, and you're going to put your address on the back, and then you're going to put their address, and you're going to check the boxes that you want certified mail return receipt requested, and they will sign for that, and then the post office will mail that card back to you. So that's the first way you're going to serve them. The second way you can serve them, and you don't need to do both of these, you just need to do one, is that you can give a copy of all the documents to the sheriff in the county where they live. So if you live in Wake County, that's where we practice primarily, you can, after you are done at the clerk of court's office, you can go right across the street to the sheriff's office, and you can give the sheriff a copy of all the documents with a check for $30. And I don't know if you can pay with credit card yet or not. And I will tell you, when you do file the documents, you need to take certified funds. They do not take personal checks, just an FYI in case you show up there. If you forget and you show up with a check, they do have an ATM right outside the clerk's office if you need that. That's in Wake County. I don't know about other counties, but so make sure you have certified funds or cash. And but the same thing with the sheriff. You're going to give a copy of the documents to the sheriff, and then you're going to give them their check for $30, or a certified check or Visa or whatever for $30. And then what happens next? Then you wait. And so if you want to serve your spouse via certified mail, you're going to keep the little receipt that shows the certified mail number, and you want to make a note of that tracking number, keep it with your file, and then you can go ahead and check the U.S. Postal Service website to see the process, and it's just usps.com. Or if you just Google USPS tracking, Google actually has a little spot where you can enter the tracking number in now, and they'll tell you what the progress is of service. So sometimes what happens is your spouse will not sign for the paperwork for whatever reason. They refuse to sign for the paperwork, and they'll try to deliver it a couple times, or if they try to deliver it and your spouse isn't there, then they'll hold it at the post office and give them a notice to come pick it up. And if they don't pick it up, then after several tries, the U.S. Postal Service is going to return those documents to you. If that happens, you're going to need to go back and take a copy of all the paperwork. You can just literally open up the envelope that it comes back to you in and take the same documents that you were going to mail to them, take it to the sheriff's office, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about what you need to do, but you'll take it to the sheriff and the sheriff will have to serve those documents for you. You have to understand, though, time is somewhat of the essence. The civil summons that is issued by the clerk requires an endorsement if it has not been served on the other person within 60 days. So you just basically need to take it back to the clerk's office and say, hey, I haven't been able to serve my spouse yet. I need you to endorse this. They'll check the box. You'll pay them another fee, and then you can go ahead and serve your spouse via sheriff if that's what you need to do. After you receive the green card back in the mail, assuming that they do sign for the green card and they do accept service, then you'll go ahead and file that green card with the affidavit of service that you'll receive when you do all the documents through our interview program, and you'll go ahead and take that and file that with the court file, and that needs to be notarized. Now, if you decide to serve them instead via sheriff, sometimes that's just easier. It costs about $30 as of the recording of this video, but you basically take a copy of the documents and you have to take an extra civil summons. So like I said, the clerk's going to give you 2 copies back. You take one that is going to will go with all the documents that's going to go to your spouse, and then the extra goes with the sheriff, and the sheriff will return that to you or to the clerk of court directly after they've served your spouse. The fee is $30 currently, and that's in all the counties of North Carolina. You have to give them a valid address for your spouse. If you don't know where your spouse is, you're wasting your money. And after they've served the paperwork, they will sign the back of the civil summons. They will indicate the date and time that they delivered the lawsuit to your spouse, and then all you need to do is follow up with the sheriff's office to confirm the date and time of service. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll mail that civil summons back to you, and then you would file that with the court, or sometimes they will deliver it back to the court directly, and it'll go into the court file, and then the court will know. But either way, you need to check after several weeks to see if your spouse was served when that happened, so that you can start the clock ticking on the 30 days you need to give them to respond. So, as I said, after your spouse is served, then they have 30 days to file a response. A lot of people just don't respond at all, especially if they want the divorce too. It's a lawsuit. I know it sounds ugly, but in reality, all it is a mechanism to get your divorce finalized. And if they're in agreement that that's what they want, then they probably won't respond. And then after the 30 days has passed, you can go ahead and schedule your divorce hearing. So in the next video, we will talk about what you need to do to finalize your divorce and how to act, and the questions that you're going to need to respond to when you go to the divorce hearing.